2 arrival runways and were preparing for an emergency landing, but the plane was in too much distress to be able to do that. Now, law enforcement officials say this was a level 1 mobilization. That is the highest mobilization. No one knew what was going on. They didn't know whether there was some sort of catastrophic mechanical failure or whether, in fact, it was an act of terrorism. New York City's mayor tonight says that no terrorism was involved, but the mayor will not say exactly what happened to this plane until NTSB investigators are able to get in there. We are learning from sources, however, that the pilot radioed in about hitting a bird. The interesting thing, Lou, is that if the bird had hit just one engine, the pilot could have continued flying. It appears that both engines were hit. So that's something that's going to be investigated. But law enforcement officers tonight really saying that the pilot in this case was a hero, the pilot, the co-pilot, the crew, because they were able to keep control of that plane. They were able to keep the passengers calm and get everyone out alive. Also, you have to remember, and this is really interesting, that this was playing out real time. You had all of these motorists up along the West Side Highway watching this plane descend. And if you live in New York, you can't help but think of the 9/11 attacks, because that's exactly the same route that the plane took when it hit the Trade Center. But however, many people were calling into 911 to the fire department, which was alerted at 3:31 this afternoon. They dispatched 25 different units. Emergency responders were there. The police department was there. And what happened is when the plane entered the water, a lot of ferries were able to dispatch very, very quickly. And when you look at the daytime pictures, as you can see just there, those are commercial ferries. That's the Circle Line that a lot of tourists come into when they visit New York. Those ferries race to surround that plane to try to save those passengers. And a couple of the still pictures that we're getting in our eye reports look really unbelievable, because you see the life rafts that have just deployed exactly the way they're supposed to. A couple of people standing on the wings of that airline, and then these ferries coming in effectively to pick these people up out of the water. So really, not that pilots practice this all the time, but if this is as close to textbook as you can get. Lou?
Textbook, and we should point out the pilot's heroism and professionalism needs no further testament, but this is not something that pilots can rehearse. It's an extraordinary piece of flying by all accounts, and Deborah, we're going to have accounts from eyewitnesses to this crash landing and the extraordinary heroic rescue. We're also going to have accounts from passengers themselves here in this hour. In fact, joining me now in the studio, one of the survivors of Flight 1549. He is Fred Beretta. Fred, it is great of you to take time to be with us. This has been an extraordinary day for you, and I just want to say thank you so much for taking time to share your story with all of our viewers here.
Glad to be here.
Fred, I said to you earlier, I said this is almost a miracle, and you declared it to be a miracle, and we will go with your declaration. Tell us, first, you're from Charlotte, North Carolina. You're on your way home. Tell us about the boarding, the first minutes of this flight, and your thoughts and the way it proceeded.
Sure. It was just fine. I think we were delayed a few minutes in departure, but the departure was fine. Took off. Everything was normal. Clear skies. Really, everything was very calm until the left engine made a very loud sound and obviously failed.
Did you have a sense of your altitude at that point?
We weren't very high. We had just taken off. We had been in the air for maybe a few minutes, and I was just kind of relaxing in my seat and maybe just about to nod off, and that's when the engine exploded or made a very loud noise.
How loud was that noise? Can you give us some feeling for that?
It wasn't incredibly loud, but it was loud enough to where you knew something was really wrong with the engine, and I could actually see the engine because I was sitting on the left side of the aircraft right behind the wing, so I was able to see what was going on there and could tell that it had failed.
And was there smoke, anything visible there that you could detect?
It looked like there was smoke puffing out of the engine, and we were naturally concerned that it might ignite or explode, or the wing might explode. And then at that point, we were wondering if the right engine was okay.
And what was the reaction of your fellow passengers? More than 150 people aboard. What was the reaction as that noise occurred and eyes were drawn, of course, immediately to that left wing and that engine?
There wasn't